biggest difference is that you have um, a very strong flesh and blood reference point to draw from for creating what it is you want to. When you read a script, otherwise that's based on fictional characters. You imagine your own kind of personality and the way this person would dress or what he'd do and how he'd speak and how he'd dance or whatever it may be. But here it was very definite in terms of who we're talking about. So it was just trying to understand him on more on an emotional level of what he was feeling at those various moments in his life, when especially in the ones that are reenacted in the film, recreated in the film, to get an understanding of that. At no point was the approach to try and mimic or impersonate him. I think it's important to just understand the essence of him, the spirit of him, and then channel it through your own imagination, and then draw from your own life's experiences of when things like that resonated with you, so to make it more believable to a person who's looking in. So his listening to him talk about his life was very important to me, and just trying to understand nuances more than words. When he smiled the widest, when he was narrating his things from his life, when did his eyes go moist, when was he uncomfortable speaking about something, so maybe clearing his throat a little bit more often, or crossing his arms and folding his legs over. At which point was he finding it difficult to speak? So there was the pitch in his voice is changing. So there are many things that the human body does without you even realizing. So just trying to understand that, latch onto that, and create like a little bit of a blueprint, an emotional blueprint that then you can start filling in with, let your creativity and imagination take over. And so essentially.
Thank you very much. And how does Milkha feel about your portrayal of him?
Well, I really don't want to answer on his behalf. I think that's very, very, very right of me to do.
I'll ask you another question then. How do you identify your life with Milkha's life?
Well, I don't know really how to draw a parallel. I do feel extremely inspired by his story, and I think because of what he managed to achieve in his life, and especially starting from a childhood that from being extremely secure, being in a very secure, loving, warm environment of his family, overnight things changed for him, and he was deprived of everything, of a home, of his family. He had no emotional support, he had no food to eat. So how does this child who suddenly has no identity of his own and no support structure, no one to call his own, how does this boy find the courage, find the strength, find the ability to forgive and to move on, and make an entire country proud of him, and get everyone to know who he is and everyone knows his name. Where does he find the strength from? How does he inspire? Who inspired him? How does he motivate himself? So it's just an amazing story. So it's very inspiring to me, and that really helped me do the best that I could possibly do with this film. Because it's the kind of role, of course all roles are special and all films are special, but I think there's something rare about this movie, because I think he's a rare individual, so it reflects in the film. So it really made you want to do a lot more than, I don't know if I'd want to get into this kind of, just on the face of it, there are many other things which can't be understood, which are the emotional and mental aspects of creating a character. But when you talk just about the physical thing, I've personally, I've like, to me, there's one thing becoming an athlete, but it was important for me that he feel very proud of the work that is done, and that was the only thing that he ever asked of me, was that, whatever may happen with the film, and who knows, whether people will like it or they won't like it, that's remains. He's like, but just as long as you work really hard in creating this character, that's what will make me happy. So to me, it just gave me like, wings on my shoes to be able to do things that I don't know if I'd do otherwise, what I mean? So I'm just very inspired by his life, to be honest.
So what was the most difficult part of the shoot? I heard that you were dying to have rotis.
Yeah, I mean, like there were many things like that, of course. I mean, it was a complete lifestyle change for a year and a half, which I mean, in all honesty, was great while it was happening because I've never felt fitter and healthier and anything. And I felt, you feel you can take anything on. You feel invincible. You feel really strong. It's quite an amazing feeling living that life. But the biggest thing to try, and I don't think I still can do it. I've tried my best as an actor to be able to imagine it and put myself in that situation, which is the moment in the film when Milkha ji has to face up to the memories of his childhood. And he has this visual in his head of his parents being massacred. Now, I don't know how to imagine that. I mean, it's very difficult, and as hard as you can try, you won't come close. So just to somehow emotionally and mentally grasp what that must feel like was very, very difficult. Because there's a very strong moment in the film where he has to face up to that, and that just talking to him about it constantly, and just seeing what it does to him when he speaks about it, did help, of course, to try and understand it. But still, I mean, that probably was the most difficult thing in the film because that's where story began. From this moment, his life changed. So just to try and grasp that.
Would you say that was the most cherishing part of the movie as well for you?
I don't know. I mean, it was one of the greater challenges in the film. I think a lot more challenging to me than physically doing what was done in the film, because you have, I mean, it's tangible. You can go out there and you can lift weights and you can run and people will time you when you eat the right thing and you sleep enough hours. So everything is monitored and it can be done. But I don't know how do you imagine this? It's like when I remember when my daughter was born, and if anybody asks me what did you feel like when you first saw her, there's no words to describe it. I mean, and you have to experience it for yourself. How else you say it? So it's that kind of thing. So just to try that was probably the toughest thing.
And where the Sikh community, I know, has for a long time had issues with the Hindi film industry and the way they see themselves portrayed in Hindi films, because usually they are the funny sidekicks. And this is like a hero for them and for Indians at large, who's a Sikh. So I imagine that the feedback you're getting from the Sikh community must also be really great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's truly, I mean, one of their own. And they all look up to him. They have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Probably more so because he's from their community than most Indians do. But all Indians love him and they all respect him. But that is true. I mean, the film industry does have the tendency and the capability at times to stereotype certain communities. They've done it not just with the Sikh community. They've done it with Parsis. They've done it with Sindhis. They've done, you know what I mean?
White people.
Yeah, white people. Yeah, absolutely. So we have the potential to do it time and time again. But I mean, I think with a new breed of director and a new breed of writer, I think things are probably going to change. And you see that happening probably now a lot less than you did maybe 10-15 years ago. I'm sure they must feel great that there's a film made about their biggest hero, and it's completely on a very human level that the story is being told. I mean, the fact that he belongs to the community is not the most important thing in the film, or that's not the subject of comment in the movie. It's about a man. It's about a person who's done these amazing things, and he happens to belong to the Sikh community.
What was it like working with Sonam and Rakesh ji?
In the same breath. I'll start with Rakesh. Rakesh, to me actually it started when Rakesh told me the story of Milkha in about 20 or 25 minutes, and it was very obvious and very apparent that the story, the subject, the person was very close to his heart. He's been a sportsman. Rakesh, he's represented India nationally in the Asian Games. Yeah, he was a swimmer. And he was telling me that when he used to train, although Milkha was track and field and he's a swimmer, but his coach would tell him look how Milkha ji used to train, look at you all. You know, so he's been he's been like an example of discipline, dedication, sacrifice, commitment for generations and of all sports in India.
Mm.
So he was a very special, he has a very special connect with Rakesh for sure. And so he was very sensitive about the project because he's very sensitive about the man.
Mm-hmm.
Working with him, he's put together an amazing script with Prasun, which Prasun has written. And there is a great amount of heart which I think comes from both of them and the understanding of Milkha ji into the script. And then he just lets you go, you know, he just let us be and let us do what he felt that like he trusted us, you know, to instinctively now start doing our thing. I think he also saw that there's a lot of effort being put in from everyone's part to try and do the best they possibly can, which I guess also helped him make those calls that, you know, of letting people do what they have to. But it was very comfortable working with him. I mean, there were days we would not really even have to talk to each other because we kind of understood what it is that needs to be done. And once in a while we would look at each other and just pump our fist and go hard work, you know, and just head off in different directions and start doing our own thing. But tremendous. I mean, he just gave me a lot of freedom. Not just me, I think all the actors, a lot of freedom to just go out there and just follow their own kind of creative instinct in terms of what they'd like to do, which was very nice. And with Sonam, Sonam I think is yeah. No, firstly to start with, I think she's very well cast in this part. I think as an actor, her choice to say yes to this film, I think in itself is a very heartening thing, because she's bought into what the film is about. You know, and she's committed herself to the story, and she's not thought about, oh, I have 5 scenes and 1 song, so why should I do it? You know, she's really understood what this film is about, and she has an important part. She's a catalyst in Milkha Singh's life for him to move on to something bigger in terms of his dream. But and she's very well cast. She's very easy to work with. You know, she's a happy influence on set. She's always smiling, so that's always nice, you know, to have happy people around. And for me also personally, just in the so-called schedule of the film, these are the relatively more lighter moments in the film, the more romantic bits. So it was a nice change from all the intensity and the drama and, you know, the running around so much. A little bit of a break from all of that. So it was a very refreshing change as well for me.
Thank you.
As Farhan, the filmmaker, is there anything that you look at? Is there anything that you would have done differently? I'm sure it's a great film, but anything that
I would do differently.
Yeah, like is it?
No, not really. My mind's not really gone there. You know, to be honest, it's I have no. There's no hypothesis in my head that what if it was my film? You know, that doesn't exist. So I feel the person who's directed and conceived of this idea and put this film together and is directed is really the right person to have done it. So I just feel very fortunate, you know, to have collaborated with him on this film.
And as far as sort of sporting films go, because obviously Hollywood, now sport, it's a really well-established genre.
Yeah.
How does this rank for you? Do you have a favourite sport film, or did you ever think, I'd like to play an athlete of some sort?
You know, I think everyone has. I mean, when you act, you have, I mean, certain fantasies when you watch movies that, wow, that's a great part. You know, or if you can get, I mean, a reason like this to get into shape, why not? You know, things like that. These are fantasies. But when it comes along with something so meaningful, it's always, it doubles your excitement. You know, because it's and as far as sporting films, I mean, of course, there's many. There's Chariots of Fire, there's Raging Bull, there's Rocky 1. There's Cinderella Man.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, so there's many films. I mean, there must be more which I can't think of right now at the top of my head. But these 4 come to mind.
India's still missing a great boxing film, so if you can make
Is missing a great
boxing film.
boxing film.
So if you can make that would be fantastic.
Okay. Keep that
How
in
do you
mind.
think that Bollywood will develop in the further years? Because considering the fact that it's 100 years, so
Yeah.
and it's, you know, really going places. So what do you think? What do you envision for Bollywood?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think when we make predictions, more often than not, we have to end up eating our own words later. So it's better to not. But I think what's good is that there is evolution happening, which is very healthy. I think that's a good thing. And as long as we don't stagnate, as long as we keep reinventing, as long as we have welcoming new directors, new writers, new talent, which is happening, I think that's a good sign. So because that means there will always be something, there will always be a reboot. That will happen. So I think that's a good thing. But where it'll go, I have no idea. Are people getting a little bit more gradually more accepting of it? Yes, they are. But let's see what happens. I think eventually your work is going to speak for itself.
That's
you know.
true.
Yes.
So just thinking like out of the blue, with you've known parents and all, they don't really care that much of children getting to sports. Do you think movies like this will actually inspire them to let their children get into sports and make them?
Well, that is one of Milkha ji's one of his bigger reasons to share his story. He does feel very saddened by the fact that after him there have been only 4 other athletes who have made it into an Olympic final
Yeah.
in track and field. And he, I think, is as bewildered and as puzzled as any of us would be, as to why aren't there more. It can't be that we don't have fast runners or long distance runners. They're around, but they're obviously either, like you're saying, not being motivated to get into sport
Parents.
because maybe parents want them to be secure in a certain job so that they can make money and get a pension. I don't know. Maybe it's that. And also, I think on some level is the sporting ministry also needs to maybe get into action. So let's see. I mean, if that can happen, because that is one of his dreams through this film, and I feel many things that he has wanted for this movie, and many things that he has said and he has shared with all of us have inspired us to do things that maybe we won't do normally. So hopefully that can reach out to people through the screen and maybe give them the right people the right messages of what they can do. And why not? Maybe I hope it does that. I
It's
hope
the
it's
same
for
with
his sake.
rock on as well, right? Like parents, like you would normally see people don't actually have a band or something, and
Yeah. No, I must tell you an amazing story from Rock On actually. There was in the film, the rival band when we go for that contest.
yeah,
Yeah. Who sang Zehri Le Zehri.
yes,
The lead singer of that band is a very dear friend of mine. His name is Suraj, and he has his own band.
it starts with P something.
Sorry?
I forgot the name.
No,
Sorry.
that's Pentagram. That's
Oh,
another band.
Okay.
Suraj has there's him and a guitarist friend of ours called Chandresh who have a band of them. And his father never kind of understood and appreciated why Suraj is into music, and somehow never really spoke to him about it. Then he invited him for the screening of this movie, and he saw the film. And after that, Suraj called me up and he said, "For the first time, my father told me I'm really proud of what you do." So it was very amazing for him. So I think if films can do that on these levels, I mean, it doesn't always have to be a nation gets inspired.
Absolutely.
It can happen on macro levels as well. But if it can reach out and do things to people, then why not? Of course.
What's your favourite aspect of being in London?
My favorite aspects of being in London.
Of being in London.
Well, firstly, I think just the freedom to walk around, I think, is a very important thing, which we don't get in Mumbai at all.
Sure.
So there's open spaces and shrinking day by day. So being here, it's nice to walk around, just experience a little bit of life, which is always nice. And I mean, the whole the theatre scene here is always impressive. To just come in and see new plays that are happening. So those are the 2 highlights for me really.
What's your latest play that you've seen?
Sorry.
What's your latest play?
I
that you've
haven't
seen?
come back here and spent time in a very long time because
Yeah.
I've just been so busy working, but I really do want to. And I've given myself the September, October, November of this year really to not think about work and just take a break from it, because in all honesty, I started shooting for Rock On in 2008 Jan, and there's been no break really
That's
since
amazing.
then. So it's finally now all my commitments end
Yeah.
with the release of this film.
Yeah.
So then there's a bit of a break.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Murray's got people talking on Twitter. Are you planning to take this forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lifetime commitment. So yeah, we constantly will keep doing something with it. Our primary objective is to just constantly reach out to school and college kids across the country. So that will also involve me traveling to those places and speaking with them. And we're trying and doing, instead of going and boring them with speeches and lectures, we do it through music. So we have a band, we go perform songs,
That's
and
the
in the
way to
midst
get
of all of
through
that, talk to
music,
them a
yeah.
little bit about what we're doing with this, and hopefully they become the messengers for us. And then, because that's where the change is going to happen. There's a certain lot, I think, that have gone past that date of being changed anymore. But this generational change, I think, is something that seems possible. So to just keep working in that direction is something, of course, it's lifelong.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.